Welcome to our CAMI site visitor training today on how to utilize CAMP. We have some special guests here with Program and CAMI and WeaveY who are happy to share some tips and tricks today how to better utilize CAMP from a site visitor perspective. Today, we are happy to have Glenn Yap, Stacy Rowand, and Jennifer Gray here to kind of give you some training within the CAMP system and have them introduce themselves a little bit more about their current roles with CAMI, where they're doing, and how they can better assist you today. Glenn, why don't we start with you?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Great seeing a lot of you here. I recognize many of you. Some of you I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting yet. But my name is Glenn Yap. I'm the director of the MHA program at Eastern Virginia Medical School. I've been with CAMI since 2005, started out as a fellow, serve on the accreditation council, and now I do site visits. So I have the honor of doing site visits for CAMI. It's my pleasure to be with you today and to at least show you how I use CAMP when I work on site visits and progress reports and such.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Rowand. I'm the Director of Information Systems at CAMI. I'm sure I've had some email contact with most of you by this point, so it's nice to put some faces to the names. I've been with CAMI for about 2.5 years, and I manage a lot of our tool set, including what we call CAMP, which is actually known as Weave, is the developer of CAMP. Stands for CAMI's Accreditation Management Portal. So you'll hear those two terms being used interchangeably, CAMP and Weave. And I hope that we get some of your questions on the tool answered today. And we also have then from Weave here, Jennifer Gray, who I work very closely with, so she can introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. I'm not sure where you all are. I'm Jennifer Gray, Senior Product Manager here at Weave. I've been with Weave 11.5 years, and I was a customer before that for about 5 years. Been working around and inside accreditation for 28, 29. I don't really want to do that math, but we're going to say 20 plus years. And so I've worked with CAMI since they began partnering with us at Weave. So I'm excited to just be here as a support. Your CAMI staff has everything they need to help you get ready, but I'll be here for any Weave specific questions if you need.
We're going to start at the beginning of this is, the CAMI website, and you just go under site visitors, go down to the CAMI Accreditation Management Portal. Okay, so it normally brings you to the login website, but I was already in here earlier, so it brings me to the Weave website. And if any of you also use Weave for your institutional tracking like we do here, what you can do is it all seamlessly integrates. Didn't have one issue. But if you go to the top right-hand corner, click on your icon. These are all the projects that you have in Weave. So like up here is EVMS, Eastern Virginia Medical School, all the things. If I click on that, it would give me all the things I'm working on. But in this case, you could see that these are the things I worked for or working on for CAMI. And they've created a couple sandboxes for us to play in today. And right now, like I'll show you, this is like a progress report. So I'll tell you, we'll just go ahead and start on a progress report since we're here. And so what you can see here is, it'll be a progress report, the name. And first thing I want to point out to you is right here in this area called event. In this case, it shows progress report 2, progress report 1, and all the other times you will have access to the self-study itself. They forgot to put in the link here, but that's what you will see is like the self-study, the original document. And what you can do then is you can look back to see what did they put in originally, what was the report last year, what were the findings, and this year, let's take a look at it. And so right here, what we see is there are still 2 criteria that weren't met previously. And if you go down here, and this is the same on both. This is a description of the criteria. And you can see it here. The instructions, and this is more useful for when you're looking at the self-competence, the self-study, and the expectations, okay, of what they want to see in this. If it's criteria related, if it's consultative for strengths, and so forth. This is for you to get an idea. If you can't remember what you should put, this helps you a lot. But if this is a progress report, what you will click on next, or what I click on next, is narrative. And in this case, by the way, this is 3A1, and this is just notional data. You read the narrative. First I read, okay, what's the original finding? I'll look at the old progress report. Then I'll look at what they put in this year. I will look at that. Then I'll click on if there's any evidence that they submitted. If it's like a new syllabi, whatever they want to provide, I would click on that. And a lot of times you can just click on the link and you would get a preview of it. Now, I know a lot of you, and I've run into it before, where the preview doesn't work and you can't see what's there. What I normally do, and I always actually do it with this figure 12, I go up to the right-hand corner where it says download. I click download and I download the attachment to my computer. Okay, so I always do this one because when I look at syllabi, I want to make sure that the syllabi and the course mapping actually match itself. So that's a way, if you can't see it on preview or it's too small, I always download the attachment, then I can blow it up to 200% because my eyes are just not as good as they used to be anymore. Okay. So once you have that there, the evidence, before I actually write the reviewer report, we all know we have two people always reviewing everything, self-study, the reports, you name progress reports. Over here on the right, where you see editing now, these are the comments that you and the other reviewer can share. And none of these comments can be seen by the program. So if I put in like test comments, or, like, I can't believe they submitted this, the other reviewer can see it, but they can only see it and Cami can see it. No one else can see that. And once you both agree on, let's say, in this case, we'll say we believe it's met. Okay, that whatever they did, it met the criteria. So on the review report, we could just simply put based on the submitted materials, this criterion is met. That's it. And we could go to the next one. Then we'll see the next one, 3A2. We would do the same thing. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back. There's one thing for 3A1. Okay. Once you do this, go over here to the accreditor rating, hit met. Okay, and it automatically saves everything. Go to the next one. You could do the same thing. We're going to assume since it's progress report 2, this is also met. And once we're done with that, and once, I've already called and spoken to the other person reading it, if we all agree with it, the review report is fine. We hit submit to accreditor. And, a lot of times, well, a few times I should say, you might forget to do that. Cami will send you an email that says, hey, can you go ahead and hit submit to accreditor? Yes, I forgot about hitting it. So that's what you would do there for a progress report. Okay, so remember, this event gives you all the background. If you wanted to know what the original one was, you go through the criteria, narrative, evidence, and the reviewer report is the only thing the program will see. None of the comments that you write here can be seen by anyone else. Make sure you do the accreditor rating of met, partially met, not met, then submit to accreditor. Okay, so that's just a progress report. If we go now to the like a self-study, so I'm going to click on my picture here, scroll down, and this is going to be the sample self-study. Okay, why am I getting that? I do not, there we go. Okay, once again, you can see, this will be familiar. This shows all the criteria and, all the requirements that they've already filled out. Right here, you have the description, the same as before, of each of the elements here, the instructions, and the expectations. This is the same as what we saw in the progress report. Oh, by the way, when I review a self-study, I always have two screens. On the second screen, I always have the program review worksheet. And the reason why is it prevents me from having to flip back and forth in the Weave website or the CAMP website to see what these review elements are. So I always have this on one screen and the CAMP on the other screen, this on the other screen. That's just what I do, and I will go ahead and say, okay, when I look at the narrative, I always have that review screen. I'm reading it. I'm following it with the review elements at the same time. If I have, comments, notes, questions, this is where I will quickly go over here to review report and start typing in comments. And sometimes I'll just put in, a short comment when I think of something, then go back to the narrative and keep reading and go back and maybe throw in another comment here. So it is like a workspace. Yes, do I have a lot of typos in there sometimes? Yes, because I'm just quickly typing out notes there. But I will go back and clean them up, so when other people read them, it'll be much easier. And everyone will be able to read everybody else's notes, but the program can't. So once I'm done reading all the narrative, I go to evidence, and once again, you can click on them, and this is like a syllabi, the cover sheet. You would usually review it, and if I had any issues with it, I always mark it down. Hey, in what's this HADM 200, I had concerns about some of the assessments, whatever it is. Okay. But then I could close it or download it if I want. Then once again, we have comments here. And what I have the team and I do is once we review all this, we will make sort of an initial rating, and we will sort of put it in here based on what we think it is. Some of them are, we'll say, clearly met. A lot of them will say, well, some of them might be partially met, and a lot of them we're not 100% sure yet. So we might not put anything there at that time, but we will try to do a initial rating here. Okay. And so we would then just go to the next criteria and exactly do the same thing. We will look at it, read it, look at the narrative, look at the evidence, then start putting our comments in here. And just like with a progress report, at the end, before you submit it at the end of the site visit, 6 weeks after, you put the final comments here. So if you go up to expectations here, so it says criteria related assessment, this will include the concerns. So if you do have a partially met or not met, you just put, what I do is I type in criterion related assessment and put our findings down. I usually start saying, after review of the documents, discussions with the faculty and the students, the team found X, 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 and X. The criteria related concern is, you lay it out. Then I would go criteria related recommendation, the program must, and whatever the recommendation is that they have to do. And if it's a consultative recommendation, we just go ahead and I type in consultative recommendation and put it in there. And the one thing that I learned that I have never used before, but I just found out a little bit ago is you see these buttons here, you have the star and the light bulb. If it's a strength, you could click on this and it automatically highlights it as a strength in the overall report. If it's a consultative recommendation, all you do have to do is hit this light bulb. I wish I would have known that, because instead of me going through the entire report and counting them all up and making sure I have them where I have them. So that was something new that I will start using when we're done here. So let's say you are on a plane and you're going on a plane and you want to kind of review the self-study. And and let's face it, you might have just a tablet and you don't really want to look at everything on a tablet, right? What you can do is you can generate a report of the self-study. For those of you who've been around for a long time, that's how we used to get all of our self-study was hard copy. And sometimes it was easier to read all at once if you had it in front of you and make your notes. So what you can do is you can hit report generator. And in this case, it says it's asking you what you want. And I really want everything here because I'm going to go on a plane and I just want to really read everything. I want to read the requirements. I want to read all their narratives. And, that's what I want. So you can go to next. So I've already generated a sample report. So you can put the name on here. And you can put whatever on the title sheet. Right here, it says cover page, table of contents, evidence files, and the narrative. Okay, and I don't need any of this other stuff because I haven't done any of this yet. Okay, there's no rating, review report, or unless you want to do it at the end. But this is the way I would find it most useful is before we really go on a site visit. Then from here, you see that, you go next. And it says it's going to be processing it, and you will see it right here. It says it's processing, and that doesn't take too long, actually. But I'll just go ahead and open up the one I just did earlier today. You go to your download. And this is your sample report, hard copy. If you want to print it out, or it's easier to read. So I don't have anything on my cover sheet, but here's your table of contents. What you have here, program overview. Then if you go down to like 3A1 where we were at, you will see the narrative there. Let me see if this is it. Yeah, 3A1. So here it is. It has all the elements. It's got everything that you want in there. Then it has all the narrative there. So if you want a report, and if you want one at the very end, once you're done with it and you have all your comments and all your ratings, you can print that out. So let me go back. Okay. So, and all your reports are always over here. So let me go back here. Okay. So that's the progress report. And we're going back to our sample university. Okay. So at the very end, just like with the sample progress report, you have all your comments, your consultative, your strengths, your findings, your criteria-related findings and recommendations. Once you're all done with that, you have to hit submit to accreditor also. And that way, CAMI gets it, and they do a great job that if you did something a little off, something wrong, they will go in there and fix everything. So thank you for always doing that, because I know I'll go, wait, I forgot this. Can you go in and fix it? And they've always sort of fixed that for me. Okay. In a nutshell, that's how I use it. And oh, by the way, I know that there is a for the program review worksheet. I know some teams will use this one here where it's a program review worksheet, but it summarizes all of the comments for all of the reviewers, the chair, coordinator, the team member, the observer. And depending on the team, what they'll normally do is they'll either have everyone sort of cut and paste their comments in here, or the coordinator will go in to the camp system and copy and paste everyone's comments and have everything on a spreadsheet. Okay, it's whatever the team likes to do. I'm usually flexible. If some teams just want to work off camp itself, that's fine. If they want to use these tools, that's also great. It depends on what each team wants. But other than that, that sort of ends my quick presentation. Are there any comments or, questions that I can answer for you?
While everyone's kind of thinking through that, I'll hit on a few little things, but Glenn, that was amazing. Thank you so much. You really covered even some of the things that I was going to discuss, so makes my job easier. Jennifer's been adding some things in the chat as Glenn was presenting there, so maybe some important things to note. And then, very importantly, once you hit that submit to accreditor button, everything gets locked down. So from that point, only the accreditor can make any changes. So if you do have changes after that point, you would just send those to me and I would need to make those changes for you. Glenn hit on the strengths and recommendations, and it's really neat because whenever you highlight a strength or a consultative recommendation, I should specify, you get a star and you get a little light bulb on there so that you can quickly see which those are within the self-study. Because, you may have a standard here that's partially met, but it also has a consultative. So those are some nice features added right here that you can use as well. One future change that you will be seeing going forward, starting with self-studies in 2024, Jennifer is actually right now kind of creating these new standards within Weave. So this expectations tab will now actually have the bulleted list of items from the criteria program review worksheet. So Glenn won't need his second screen anymore. So those things will be listed right in there. So as you're reviewing, you see the list of items that you need to review just built into the camp system. And that's not going to be helpful just for you guys. It's definitely also going to be helpful for the program so that they can see what are the items that you as reviewers are reviewing on their self-study. And then the other quick thing I wanted to mention was if you don't have a camp login yet, we usually provide those to you once you're assigned as a site visitor on something. So, we'll get that to you at some point. And also very importantly, up here, this question mark box will help to answer a lot of questions that you may have. Weave has some really great instructional tutorials in here on how do I, it helps to answer a lot of your questions. There is a very quick one that you can take within here that is specific to reviewers, which of course now, they're Reviewers Guided Tour. And also something super important for you to know is there is a help desk that Weave has. So if you are running into an issue, struggling to log in, can't remember your password, or you're seeing something weird, there is a way within here that you can do this. We're here to assist. And you're able to submit a message to them with some of your specifics on what's going on. And they are very quick to respond to these. So you can submit a ticket within there. So that's kind of all I had to kind of wrap up the odds and ends, but we definitely wanted to provide some time for Q&A. We have Jennifer from Weave here to help answer or provide tips on any questions that you may have when it comes to using Weave/Camp. So please, if you have any questions.
Hey, Glenn, what do you use for the readout?
What I normally do is, to tell you the truth, I will I usually will print it out, and and I only read out the things that I have findings for, right? I mean, I've done it right out of camp before. I just, scroll, go across. But a lot of times what I will do is I will have a sheet of all the criteria and I will cut and paste like my findings and my recommendations, the strengths. That's what I normally do just to make it easier and smoother.
Is there a report in camp that you can just click on a box and have all of the strengths and recommend, consultative and all the recommendations come up so you can read it off of that?
There is. Stacy is about to show you, I think.
So I
Oh,
think,
good.
so yes and no to that question, because you can select your standards within here. So if you only wanted to see the ones that were not met, partially met, etc., then from there you can select just the strengths and the consultative recommendations, but you would also need to select. That's where it gets a little crazy because we don't actually highlight every single, so anything that's a not met or partially met is not highlighted with that recommendation tab, so it's not going to necessarily show up in here. So you would need to select those if you wanted to be very specific on what you wanted to review. You would need to select those within this area here. So
Right.
if you
Whatever you highlighted as a strength or a consultative recommendation, you could make the report only show those things. Even if you selected all the standards, it would just be page by page and give you those, but only if you use that highlight feature that Glenn showed.
Right, which we only use those for strengths and consultative to identify them separately from the not met and partially met. Yeah. So, if you wanted to actually print something out, you would have to go through that versus looking at it from this perspective.
I know Glenn acknowledged the spreadsheet that we're all familiar with in respect to comments from team members. Is there a way to get comments printed directly from Weave per each standard?
I'm looking at Jennifer for that answer. I don't
No.
know. No, there's not. Okay.
No.
There is not. Okay.
No, unless it's in the actual report, but if it's a comment, those aren't included in any report.
While others may be thinking of questions, I realized one little tidbit that I missed. It's this locked button right here. It looks small, but it's mighty. So when you unlock a standard, that allows the program to make edits to it. So I think I've seen some people go through and unlock every single standard thinking that I think that that's what they need to do to edit them, to put their feedback in there. And I want you to know that that is not needed. And for the most part, I don't think that this will be a very commonly used feature. But if you are at the site visit and there is something that is related to the standard that you want the program to enter in after the fact, you would unlock this standard for them, allow them to make their edits, and then you would relock it. Okay, Philip has his hand raised.
Yeah, just a quick question regarding the comments. So let me make sure I understand this right. So the review team, the members of the review team can read each other's comments, but once it's submitted, the comments disappear completely. No,
the comments will still be in there. You'll be able to access them in this space. They just won't be editable anymore.
In this area right here. So anything that ultimately goes to the program needs to be located within this review or report area.
And Jen, could you tell the reason, so folks understand why
Yeah.
be accessible to us?
Yep. So a lot of our reviewers use that space for prepping for the site visit, right? I'll leave myself a note that says, make sure you check for these 5 things. They weren't super clear in the self-study. Ask these questions of the assessment director. So they're really, the way I've seen it used the most is by, in preparation, things for you to do, things for you to ask each other when you're at the site visit or during the site visit. So it's more for process management as you go. Anything that's official that needs to be shared with CAMI and or the program should go in that report. That way you don't have to censor yourself when you're putting things in there saying, the program forgot this piece of evidence. How dumb are they? Not that you would ever say that, but
Right. Well, that's where I was going. How private is
Yes.
it? Who's private to what? And
It's private
things-
to you and your team, your
Yeah.
site visit team. So
But
you can
it's-
put things in there that are critical, but
but it's kept, so it is eventually discoverable if things really go south.
yes. Yeah, so you could go through and delete things before you submit it that you don't want recorded anywhere, for sure. But program never have access to that space.
If you are zoomed in too far, just note the comment section drops to the bottom of the page. So we've had some people have that happen as well. So
I lost them. So it's if you're on a small laptop screen or an iPad or something, responsive, that's the word. It's also responsive for people with visual impairments, so you can zoom in and zoom out. Everything is still there. It's just moved a little bit on the screen.
Stacey, there was a question in the
yes.
chat. There's a
Yeah.
couple questions.
Okay.
Bill was asking if a review team unlocks the criteria for a program to provide additional information, should we alert CAMI staff that this is being allowed?
Great question. Eric, do you have an answer to that one?
Sure. It depends. It's not necessary. You just need to be careful and know that you've got to close that. Otherwise, the program will continue to be able to edit that section forever. So set a deadline for the program and make sure that it's relocked. But we don't need to know about that.
All right, we have another hand raised. Nayland, your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you for this very informative session. Since I'm relatively new to the review portion of the site visit, I wanted to understand who really does the submission. Is it the chair of the site visit committee or any member of the site visit committee? Because it all gets locked after that. So how does that really happen? Like the behind the scenes working.
So who is ultimately in charge of hitting that submit button is what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I have to think back to what the what our site visitor responsibilities list says. I believe it's the chair who is ultimately responsible. Sometimes I've seen the chair ask the coordinator to do it. So it's really up to the chair, I think, to ultimately decide, make sure that that is submitted. So either they take that on themselves or they can pass that on to the coordinator. When you're assigned to a progress report, that also is an interesting question because we've started to kind of create a new defining of the two different roles for a site or for a progress report review. So we're calling somebody a lead and somebody a secondary. Not that your job is any different other than that lead is responsible for making sure that they hit that submit to a creditor button so that and that the report is completed. So you'll see that distinction as well whenever you're assigned to a progress report. Any other questions that anyone has?
I wanted to just point out one thing, if it's okay, Stacey, can you go to the your saved reports page?
Sure.
I put a note in the chat, but I just want to make sure you all know the report that comes out of the system, especially if you include the evidence, and hover over that little question mark there, that dark, yep. So the thing that comes out of the system is going to be a zip file. If you're not super familiar with zip files, here are instructions on extracting it. I had no idea how to do that when I was on campus, but this is important. So if you don't do this, you may find that any hyperlinks they've made in the narrative is broken. So if you find that, come back and review these instructions. Just make sure you extract the file. If you're working on a Mac, there's a little video because it's a little different.
Great, thank you. And that, just even clicking through there was may not have been super intuitive as to where you can find your reports, but even if you click this report button, it's not just for creating a new one, it's also for viewing any past ones that were created.
So this is a technical question more for Jen. As a reviewer, if you were going to be providing any comments, are you also able to add files related to that?
No. Currently, no. I'm hoping in a couple of weeks, there'll be a little link button on this text editor so that you can.
Okay.
But currently, no.
So yeah, look forward to that expectations tab kind of changing a little bit with that criteria program review worksheet built in. These were in the past just kind of some general site visitor instructions, but it should be a little bit more helpful going forward with that information. And if you think of any questions after the fact, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I can always pass those questions on to Jennifer as well if it's something related to Weave, and we can get those answered for you.
Stacey, what I was going to say is, while it's rare we have this many site visitors in one arena, if you wanted to show what a beautiful job you did, I linked the site visitor resources page on the website because a couple people were asking for the program review sheet. So if you wanted to show them the beautiful job you did on the website and where they can find additional site visitor resources.
Absolutely. So yes, we have a revamp of our website in case any of you haven't seen it. We have some nice links here for specifically for site visitors. And one of those things, as Glenn pointed out, is the link to camp, but also we have this site visitor resources page now. And within here, you'll find everything you need as a site visitor, as our roles and responsibilities document, instructions for a site visit, those program review worksheets, and the syllabus information for the self-study. We have our T&E documents on here as well. Please go and check that out. There's also a great video on here that you can watch, the site visitor brand ambassador video.
And then as one other reminder, as I also mentioned in the chat, a lot of these resources are also linked within the CLC in the site visit prep module. There's also some trainings that you've been seeing, reminders from me, Melissa, and Melissa Sanseverino here. So if you did not do your CAMI 2023 CAMI site visitor update training, please do that before the 2024 one will become available in July. Fresh on things that might have changed throughout the year, making sure that before attending a site visit, you're most up to date on any changes that were made or different expectations that we've kind of gone over throughout the year for the site visitors. There's also additional trainings that kind of live within there that are being added, like this training will be added within there for you to reference in the future. So make sure you go in there and utilize all those tools and trainings as well. Appreciate you all attending today. Thank you, Glenn, Stacey, and Jen, for all of your expertise today. We really appreciate it, and this will be a great training to be able to add for veteran site visitors and future site visitors. So thank you all for attending.